I accidentally came across a post my boyfriend had made. My girlfriend is 6 years older than me. She wants to get married. But after 5 years together, I'm really tired of it. How do I bring up breaking up so she won't cling to me and refuse to let go? There were a lot of comments, almost all of them tearing him apart, and my boyfriend fired back at them one by one. She's already 32. Who would want to marry an old woman like that? She gives off total auntie vibes. When I saw the post, he was right there with me, decorating our future marital home. Chapter 1. I double-checked it several times. The poster's avatar was Justin's favorite game character. The location tag was the same residential complex as our new home. Then the post suddenly disappeared when I refreshed the page. Even the location tag was gone. Justin was sitting on the couch, replying to those comments, his fingers tapping rapidly against the screen, the sound sharp and grating. The installer nudged me and asked where the swing should go, in the children's room, or somewhere else. But this wasn't something I could decide on my own. Justin, do you want the swing on the balcony or inside the room? Maybe the insults were too harsh. He clenched his phone, his face darkening, and didn't even look up at me. After a moment of silence, I asked again. He suddenly slammed his phone down. Are you done yet? This stupid thing, put it wherever you want. I froze for a moment. Growing up, I never had a room of my own. I didn't dare laugh loudly when I was happy, or cry freely when I was sad. There were always people around, watching every move I made, like living in a prison. When he found out, he was heartbroken. Carolina, our baby will definitely have a huge children's room in the future. Preferably a daughter. I want to raise a little Carolina all over again. I'd only mentioned it once, but he remembered it for years and worked hard for it. After successfully proposing to me in the spacious apartment, he was happy all night, chattering nonstop about how we should decorate it. That swing had been carefully chosen by him after endless comparisons. He said that one day, he'd hold me and our child there, watching the clouds rise and the sun set. And now it had become this stupid thing. Justin was still replying to those comments, one after another. So what if we've been together 5 years? Which law says you can't break up after 5 years? Women over 30 really stink of anti-energy. I get annoyed just hearing her talk. That smell makes me sick. Even if I play around and then go back to her, she'd still love me. At her age, who else would want her besides me? The installer urged me again, asking where the swing should go. I felt embarrassed. Please cancel the swing. Justin, who had been completely absorbed in his online arguments, suddenly looked up at me, shock in his eyes. I opened my mouth, my voice hoarse, about to speak. He waved his hand impatiently, cutting me off. You're always so picky. You wanted to change the wedding plan 5 or 6 times before. I really don't know why getting married is so exhausting, so full of pointless crap. I still have to work overtime. You handle these trivial things yourself. With that, he stood up and left. On his way out, he kicked over the little wooden rocking horse we had made together. He didn't want to marry me. That was why everything felt exhausting to him. What I had wanted to say just now was actually very simple. Breaking up could be said directly. There was no need to put my sincerity online and let strangers trample over it. Chapter 2. To give me a sense of security, Justin insisted on transferring $7 million to me to buy this apartment as our marital home. The property deed listed only my name. The remaining small portion of the mortgage was paid using my housing provident fund. After he left, I contacted a real estate agent to put the apartment up for sale. While filling out the online listing information, I saw a colleague's social media post pop up, photos from afternoon tea. In the corner of one picture, Justin was clutching his stomach, bent over his desk, his brows tightly furrowed. That was exactly how he'd looked when we first met. I passed by his workstation and casually handed him a stomach medicine. It was a small gesture, but he insisted on adding me on WeChat just to transfer the money back. From then on, he started hovering around me constantly. Young men have boundless energy. When they like someone, they want to give everything they have, calling me sis this and sis that. If he wasn't deliberately planning surprises, he was staying late to work overtime with me. My once uneventful life began to ripple, little by little, because of him. Still, I hesitated because I was 6 years older than him. 6 years, not 2, not 3. When we met, he was only 21, a junior intern. I was already 27. Now he's 26, and I'm 32. An almost insurmountable gap. Even setting aside societal judgment, women are considered high-risk pregnancies after 35. I couldn't afford that gamble, but he said he didn't mind. He swore he'd stay with me forever. What truly made me decide was during the pandemic. I was in Wuhan, when the city went into lockdown and everyone was desperately trying to escape. He drove all night against the flow to come to me. Both of us developed high fevers. He fed me the last few pills we had, lying and saying he'd already taken his. There wasn't much food left in the fridge. With incredible patience, he followed cooking videos step by step to make dishes from my hometown, coaxing me to eat more even when I had no appetite. Once, I woke up groggily and found him eating the leftovers from my bowl. I couldn't stop the tears. Just like now, no matter how much I wipe them, they won't stop. I picked up the sales authorization contract for the apartment, hesitated for a moment, then grabbed a box of stomach medicine and drove to his office. Through the frosted glass walls, Justin was staring intently at his computer screen, as if dealing with something extremely important. It's actually very simple. In the future, you can analyze financial reports like this. A young woman beside him took notes constantly, nodding again and again. She must have gotten it. Her eyes curved into a smile as she let out a soft wow, then suddenly turned her face, so close that her nose was almost touching Justin's. Her eyes were filled with undisguised admiration and infatuation. Justin froze for a split second. He didn't move away. The atmosphere turned ambiguous. If Justin hadn't noticed me standing outside the door in the corner of his eye, perhaps the next second, they would have kissed. Chapter 3. I knew this girl. More than half a year ago, Justin often complained that the new intern was a nepo hire. Her resume looked pretty, but she was useless otherwise. Ever since she became his assistant, he not only had to handle his own work, but also had to hold her hand through everything and clean up her messes. He wanted to fire her or transfer her to another department, but because of her father's connections, he couldn't say it outright. He would bury his face in my neck and act spoiled. My Carolina is still the best, beautiful and capable. But slowly, everything changed. Justin probably didn't even notice it himself. Every time he mentioned Lily, even though it was framed as a complaint, there was a smile at the corner of his mouth. So that's how it was. I spoke calmly. Why did you stop asking? Lily looked flustered. Her face turned a shade paler as she glanced at the man beside her, silently asking for help. Justin frowned. Carolina, don't make things difficult for her. The very thing they had been doing before I walked in, now it had become me making things difficult. So he knew it had crossed a line. And yet, he still did it without restraint. Just like he wrote in that post, at my age, who else would want me besides him? As if to retaliate for my bullying his little assistant, his gaze landed on the stomach medicine in my hand, his tone full of disdain. Bringing medicine is something only little girls do. If you've got so much free time, why don't you research a few more projects and think about how to boost next quarter's performance? Lily pretended to be shy, fiddling with the plastic capsule packaging. When Justin didn't react, she lifted her chin slightly toward me, a silent provocation. I tossed the medicine into the trash and turned to leave. Behind me came the sound of glass shattering, followed by Lily's startled scream. Justin was angry again. At some point, I didn't know when it started, but anything I said or did, any small movement, could set him off. Maybe he just didn't love me anymore. Maybe once someone becomes unbearable to look at, everything they do is wrong. But this time, I didn't care. The location of the apartment was excellent. Not long after listing it, the agent contacted me to say someone wanted to see it. The buyer liked it very much and kept asking if I truly intended to sell. The place was beautifully decorated. It was obvious a lot of effort had gone into it. I smiled but didn't answer, only quietly signed the sales contract. After handing over the keys, I walked out of the complex. A tabby cat darted out of the bushes, tail raised, rubbing against my legs. It was Pudding. I hadn't brought any cat food, but Justin never forgot. When we first started dating, we had already been feeding the stray together. Justin mentioned several times that he wanted us to adopt it. I wasn't very willing. Pets make it easy to form attachments, And I'm especially sentimental. If we ever broke up, who would the cat belong to? Justin got angry over that. I had to coax him for a long time. Chapter 4. He looked at me, his gaze sincere. If one day I make you feel miserable, you have to tell me. I can adjust. If you still think it's not good enough, you can break up with me. But Carolina, I will never be the one to bring up a breakup, and I will never make you sad. When we get married, we'll bring Pudding to live in the marital home with us. Later, he kept plenty of cat food in the trunk. Every day when he came home, he would take out a small bag to feed Pudding. He said cats were just like people, as long as you kept feeding them, kept being good to them, they wouldn't leave. Loving someone is easy. Loving the same person continuously is hard. I reached out and stroked Pudding's head. I originally wanted to take you home with Justin today, as my birthday present. Just a little bit more, and you would have had a home. Justin kept his promise. He never brought up a breakup. So instead, he forced me to do it. I took out my phone and sent him a message. Let's break up. A glaring red exclamation mark popped up in the chat. Message sent, but rejected by the recipient. I almost forgot. For the past half year, whenever Justin got angry, I had to soothe him within an hour. Otherwise, I'd be blocked. He'd suddenly go on a business trip for days, disappearing without a trace. I would lie awake at night, tossing and turning, combing through every social platform, trying to find any way to contact him. But in reality, his business trips were probably vacations with Lily. It had already been almost 8 hours. By now, he was likely already at the airport with her. I wanted to leave a comment under that post, but at some point, Justin had already deleted it. I smoothed down Pudding's fur and said goodbye softly. Maybe no one will come to feed you anymore. I'm leaving too. Squatting for too long had numbed my legs. As I stood up, dizziness washed over me, and I fell into a broad chest. A familiar voice sounded above my head. Where are you going, Carolina? Why would no one feed Pudding? I still have 3 bags of cat food in my car. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. I saw a trace of panic in Justin's eyes. I broke free from his grasp, reaching into my bag to pull out the contract for selling the marital home. But he grabbed me first and placed a deep blue velvet box into my palm. An aquamarine necklace. Last month, on a business trip to France, I had seen it in a private collection. I'd asked repeatedly, but the owner refused to sell. I could only post a photo on my private social account and sigh over it. Carolina, I didn't forget your birthday, but you knew I was angry, and you still didn't come to comfort me for so long. Justin's eyes were damp, like a wronged puppy. What exactly was he feeling wronged about? Justin, let's break. Chapter 5. Before I could finish speaking, Lily's call came through. He listened for a moment, his expression darkening. Why are you suddenly resigning? I was standing right beside him. Lily's aggrieved sobbing came through clearly. The people in the research department are all bullying me. They're calling me a homewrecker, saying I deliberately got close to you to break up you and Carolina. But I know very well that you two are about to get married. How could I possibly do something like that? Justin walked a few steps away and coaxed her gently for a while. After hanging up, he looked at me, his gaze icy. My fingertips went numb. After 5 years together, I understood his unspoken accusation instantly. He didn't believe me, yet he trusted Lily, whom he'd known for only 6 months. Without question, Carolina, the research department is under your management. I told you not to make things difficult for her. Go to the company right now. Clarify this in front of all the employees and apologize to Lily. He gripped my wrist hard, ignoring my struggle and my explanations, and shoved me into the car. The aquamarine necklace fell to the ground and was crushed into pieces under his foot. The pressure inside the car was so heavy I could barely breathe. Carolina, split a few of those projects you're about to wrap up and give them to Lily. Let her practice. I felt dazed. Back when Justin was still an intern, my project had been snatched away by someone with connections. I had no background, so I swallowed the injustice. But he dragged me along, kicked open the doors of a meeting room packed with hundreds of people, and argued fiercely on my behalf. Rongsheng was the largest investment bank in the country. He made such a scene that day, forget getting regularized. Even his future prospects were hanging by a thread. What's there to be afraid of? Worst case, I'll quit. No one gets to bully my Carolina. When he saw me worrying for days, he joked that Rongshin was basically his family's company. I didn't believe him. After all, the largest shareholder didn't even share his surname. Now that I think about it, maybe it was true. He had publicly embarrassed senior management and still passed probation smoothly, monopolized the best resources, and within just a few working years could casually transfer $7 million for me to buy a wedding apartment. Now, as a department manager, he could summon all the executives to an emergency meeting in the middle of the night with a single sentence, just to make me apologize publicly and cheer up his little assistant. I once thought that the 7 million yuan wedding apartment was the sum total of his sincerity. I never expected it to be nothing more than a casual toy he tossed out. Just like our relationship, once he grew tired of it, he could throw it away at will. Sensing my low mood, Justin covered the back of my hand with his warm palm and softened his tone. Carolina, I don't mean anything else. After all, you and Lily are colleagues. I don't want your relationship to become too tense. We're about to get married. You don't need to work so hard anymore. Every time I see you pulling all-nighters for projects, it really breaks my heart. From now on, just stay home and be a wealthy wife. I leaned back against the seat and closed my eyes. Uncontrollably, the words from that post, Justin's contempt and disgust, flashed through my mind. Justin, if you can lie to me without batting an eye, then I hope you'll also enjoy the surprise I've prepared for you. Chapter 6. Justin dragged me into the Rongshin Group building when it was nearly 2 in the morning. The lights in the top-floor executive office were blazing. Executives I normally only saw during major meetings or in news interviews were now standing respectfully outside the conference room, heads lowered, barely daring to breathe. The moment Justin arrived, Lily's tears began to fall in heavy drops. Like a wronged little white rabbit, anyone would feel sorry for her at first sight. No wonder Justin was willing to make such a scene for her. No wonder he was even willing to tear off the mask he had worn in front of me for years. Carolina, I'm really not a mistress. My dad keeps telling me to learn more from Justin, so I had no choice but to interact with him a bit more. If this has affected you too, I'll resign tonight and never step foot in Rongshin again. As she spoke, her eyes never left Justin. Her expression was timid, her body edging closer, as if she wanted to hide behind him, as though I were some kind of demon who might tear her apart alive. Sure enough, Justin stepped forward and blocked her behind him. Carolina, Lily's father is an old family friend of ours. At most, I see her as a younger sister. Yet you incited your subordinates to spread rumors and destroy a young girl's reputation. He paused, disappointment filling his eyes. When did your methods become this despicable? Despicable? 5 years together, without bothering to verify anything, based solely on Lily's one-sided story. He placed me directly in the role of the perpetrator. You must apologize to Lily in front of all senior management. Admit that you deliberately slandered her, and that there has never been any inappropriate relationship between her and me. The secretary will record the entire process, and department heads will relay it to all employees. From now on, let's see who still dares to bully Lily. I dug my nails into my palm until they turned white. Even when Justin loved me the most, he had never thought this thoroughly for my sake. Back then, he would just charge headlong into meetings, dragging me along. In his words, worst case scenario, he would quit. He had a powerful family to rely on, but never once did he consider that my career might be completely destroyed. Offending Rongshin meant offending nearly every investment bank in the country. Decades of studying, all the blood and sweat I had poured into climbing the corporate ladder, could be wiped out overnight, and Lily had suffered nothing more than a slight grievance. Yet the seriousness with which he handled it was more meticulous than the process of taking an investment project public. What's more, this whole thing was most likely nothing more than Lily's own carefully staged performance. My chest tightened in suffocating pain. Carolina, your moth to the flame love was doomed to total defeat. Clinging to the last shred of unwillingness, I asked softly, then what about me? Justin, have you ever thought about what will happen to me when the entire company, when the entire industry, knows about this? Chapter 7. Justin's eyes clouded over, his emotions unreadable. Perhaps he had never truly considered that question before, otherwise he wouldn't have fallen into silence. After a long while, he finally spoke softly. Carolina, you don't need to think about those things. In the future, You just need to be a good wife. I suddenly laughed. At this point, why was he still lying to me? Even if I gave him the greatest possible benefit of the doubt, if he truly wanted to marry me, what he wanted was nothing more than to keep me caged at home, stripping me of all ability to survive on my own. In the future, whether he really ended up with Lily, or with some other woman, I would have no power to resist. I could only swallow my grievances and endure it for the rest of my life. Justin, what am I to you? Really? With nothing more than his position as a department manager, he had caused such a massive spectacle, yet he still offered me no explanation at all. I stopped arguing. Silently, I walked into the conference room. Justin reached out, trying to grab my hand, but grasped only air. His face darkened as he sat down not far away. Lily sat smugly behind him, propping her chin up and giving me a faint, triumphant smile. I lowered my gaze, took out a USB drive, and inserted it into the computer. Since they had left me with no way out, there was no need for me to leave them any dignity. Ever since Lily joined the company, she had caused trouble openly and in secret. I didn't have much power, nor could I change anything. All I could do was collect the evidence my subordinates handed to me. It wasn't that I hadn't tried to tell Justin before, but every time, he looked displeased, never patient enough to hear me out. He wouldn't tolerate a single bad word about Lily. I had thought he truly regarded her as a protégé. That was why he protected her so fiercely. I never imagined it was because he saw her as a lover. When Lily saw what appeared on the big screen, the smile froze on her lips. At the end of December last year, she had recommended high-risk financial products to low-risk clients, causing losses of several million. In early February, she secretly forwarded internal materials about a company's upcoming IPO to a private equity studio, engaging in illegal securities trading and harming other investors. At the end of March, despite obvious discrepancies in her financial reports, she still submitted the documents to core clients, resulting in losses on their end and the company losing a large number of high-net-worth clients. The evidence I presented was not entirely unknown to upper management. After all, those who had climbed to this level were all seasoned players. Out of deference to Justin's family background, they had chosen not to speak up. After all, Justin would cover the holes Lily left behind, so everyone had turned a blind eye. But clearly, Justin knew none of this. His face turned ashen. The oppressive authority of someone used to power radiated from him, making everyone present, including Lily, fall silent in fear. Lily, he asked coldly, is what Carolina said true? Then, as if something struck him, he looked at me with a complicated expression. And the matter you mentioned about Carolina slandering you, is that actually true? Chapter 8. He slammed his fist onto the table, anger surging in his eyes. So it turned out he hated being deceived just as much. Yet when he had toyed with me, lied to me at every turn, he had never once considered how I might feel. I let out a cold laugh. Justin, don't you have anything you'd like to explain to me? Or should I start addressing you as Boss Justin now? Though none of that really matters anymore. He pressed his lips together, his gaze tangled with conflicting emotions, guilt, confusion. After a long pause, he finally asked in a low voice, what do you mean, doesn't matter? Carolina? I told you before, Rongsheng is under my family's name. You just didn't believe me. I wasn't deliberately lying to you. I shook my head. Didn't you bring me here tonight to apologize to Lily? I turned toward her. Lily, you're right, you're not a mistress. Because Justin and I have already broken up. Justin's pupils shrank. He stared at me in disbelief, panic flooding his eyes. What nonsense are you talking about? His expression darkened as he signaled everyone in the conference room to leave. I didn't want to keep entangling myself with him. I turned to go. He grabbed my wrist from behind and pulled me tightly into his arms. His body was tense, trembling slightly. Justin, are you scared? Carolina, don't do this, okay? I know tonight was unfair to you. I was misled by Lily. I'll apologize to you. And from now on I'll keep my distance from her. Whenever there was conflict, he never reflected on his own faults. He simply shifted all the blame onto someone else. Only now did I realize how utterly irresponsible the man I once loved truly was. If he had listened to even a single word of my explanation, things would never have reached this point. But he hadn't. He was always like this, easily swept up. His emotions flaring fast and fading just as quickly. I didn't want to go in circles with him anymore. I saw your post. His body stiffened. He released me abruptly, forcing me to face his panicked gaze. What post? What are you talking about? His voice grew weaker with each word, until finally his eyes darted away, unable to face me directly. Even though the post had been deleted, those words were already burned into my heart. So what if we've been together 5 years? Which law says you can't break up after 5 years? Women over 30 just reek of auntie vibes. I get annoyed if she says one more word. Just smelling that scent makes me sick. Even if I get bored and go back to her, she'll still love me. At her age, who else would want her besides me? Strangely enough, it had only been a single day. Yet saying these words out loud now stirred no emotion in me at all. Perhaps people are only hurt when they still care. The color drained from Justin's face bit by bit. Flustered, he tried to cover my mouth with his hand. Don't say it. Please don't say it. Carolina, I can explain. It's not what you think. Back then I was just. Chapter 9. I suddenly found it a little funny. They were words he himself had typed out, one by one, yet he didn't even have the courage to hear them spoken aloud. Where did the confidence go? The one he had when he so righteously snapped back at those comments online? Was it because he realized I was truly thinking of leaving him, because he could no longer humiliate me without consequence? The calmer I became, the more clearly I saw what kind of person Justin really was. The filter that once came with loving him deeply shattered completely. There was not a trace of attachment left in me. Let's break up. Justin, just as you wished. Let's part cleanly. Justin's reaction was far more extreme than I had expected. He shouted at me like a madman. I don't agree. I will never break up with you in this lifetime. A relationship is never decided by one person alone. After all these years, how can you just decide to leave whenever you want? Have you ever considered my feelings? I only felt that he was becoming more and more absurd. He was the one who had gone online first, asking how to break up with me without me clinging to him. Yet now that I was the one proposing the breakup, he had become the one refusing to let go. If this was the outcome, why bother in the first place? Perhaps even Justin realized the contradiction himself. His tone softened. I'm sorry, Carolina. People have bad moods sometimes. That post I wrote, I was just in a terrible state and wrote nonsense. It wasn't what I truly felt. Couples always say hurtful things when they argue. But that doesn't mean I don't love you. How can you decide that our relationship is over just because of a few sentences? That was exactly it. He never understood what the real problem was. That post was merely the final straw. For over half a year, he had subjected me to endless emotional neglect, completely indifferent to how I felt. Every day after work I was exhausted, yet I still had to soothe him, his dissatisfaction, his complaints, his negative emotions. A relationship like that made me unbearably tired. If only one person is always the one making an effort, how long can it possibly last? And his coldness toward me wasn't because his temper had worsened. It was because he had met someone he thought was better. Lily. She was young, pretty, and from a family that matched his. So he hesitated. He felt I was no longer the best choice, but he couldn't bear to let go of the past either. Caught in that dilemma, all his pent-up frustration had nowhere to go but onto me. So what had I done wrong? Why did I have to endure all of this? I said slowly, word by word, Justin, you betrayed me, didn't you? The color drained from his face inch by inch. His eyes filled with shock. After a long silence, he finally admitted that for a period of time, he had indeed developed feelings for Lily. The truth was, whether men or women, everyone experiences novelty. No matter how much you love a dish, if you eat it long enough, you will eventually grow tired of it. Chapter 10. He claimed that he hadn't crossed any concrete line, so he didn't consider emotional cheating to be betrayal at all. Instead, he questioned me with self-righteous confidence. Carolina, can you really guarantee that you'll never develop feelings for another man for the rest of your life? But having feelings isn't wrong, as long as we hold the line and don't actually cross it. This relationship can still go on. Why do you have to be so fixated on this? A violent wave of nausea churned in my stomach. I didn't know when it happened, but the Justin who once couldn't tolerate even a grain of sand in his eyes had rotted into this person. I didn't want to keep entangling myself with him and turned to leave. But Justin suddenly snapped, slamming me against the wall and gripping my wrist with brutal force. Only when he cried out in pain did he loosen his hold, clutching his bleeding lip, looking at me with wounded sorrow. Carolina, do you really hate me this much? I've already humbled myself this far, explained everything clearly. Why are you still being so stubborn? After a moment of deadlock, seeing that I refused to back down, he slipped back into his usual lofty posture. Don't forget, you're already 32. Without me, do you really think you'll have a better option? I'll forgive you for today. You were just being emotional and impulsive. Let's both cool down for a few days. I'll wait for you to come apologize to me. Justin's confidence made me wonder if I had been too humble for too long, so humble that he was certain that after everything that had happened, I still couldn't leave him. Silently, I submitted my resignation through the company's internal system. All these years, I had worked day and night, trying to build a better future with my own hands, so that my child wouldn't have to suffer the way I did growing up. But perhaps, in Justin's eyes, all of my efforts were nothing more than a joke. After all, even if 10 of me worked together, I probably wouldn't earn as much as his family spent in a month on household staff. So when he watched me working so hard all those years, what did he really feel? Amusement? Or pity? I stopped thinking about it. On impulse, I bought a ticket to Yunnan. I had wanted to travel for a long time, but every plan was always interrupted by sudden work. This time, I wanted to truly relax. I went to Dali and rented a small courtyard by Arai Lake. Every day, I learned tie-dyeing with the locals, made handmade flour cakes, and ground red beans with them. The children next door often took me horseback riding and herding cattle. We watched the sunrise together from the mountain top. That mountain was quite special. There was a swing there. I sat on it with a little girl in my arms, watching the evening glow spill across the land, dyeing everything in shades of orange and red. Suddenly, I felt a moment of clarity. It turned out that these wishes didn't require waiting for another person to make them come true. Chapter 11. I could do it on my own, too, and that feeling was wonderful. After living there for a while, life inevitably became a little monotonous. I once asked an elderly woman who lived there, "Don't you ever get tired of seeing the same scenery every day?" She said she loved this land. She said that every day, she paid close attention to everything on this land. So every day she could discover something different, and then fall in love with it again, in a different way. So that's how it is. Feelings are the same. If you truly love someone, how could you ever grow tired of them? During my peaceful days in Dali, I had no idea that Justin had already gone completely mad. He went to the wedding apartment to look for me, only to find that it had been sold. He grabbed the new owner by the collar and demanded hoarsely, "How is that possible? This apartment was Carolina's life's work. How could she bear to sell it? We agreed we'd take Pudding to live there together. We agreed we'd sit on the swing on the balcony and watch the sunrise together. We were about to get married." The homeowner looked at him thoughtfully. "Maybe you hurt that girl too deeply. When she sold the apartment, she didn't shed a single tear." Justin was devastated. He bought the apartment back at 10 times the original price. Every day, he stayed shut inside, refusing to go out. The entire apartment was filled with traces I had left behind. The little wooden rocking horse we had made together, after he kicked it apart in anger. He quietly fixed it again. The swing on the balcony, after returning it. He bought it back once more. He spent his days touching the photos of me on the walls, drinking himself into sleep. Otherwise, he would lie awake until dawn, replaying our past over and over, unable to understand how I had suddenly stopped loving him, just like the days when he had blocked me back then. One night, very late, I suddenly received a call from Justin. I didn't even know when he had taken me off his blacklist. He said Pudding missed me. I found it a bit absurd. A stray cat like that saw all kinds of people every day. How could it possibly miss someone like me, who only fed it a few times? Most of the time, it had been Justin who fed it. If anyone was missed, it should have been him. He went on to ask me many questions about raising a cat. He said he had taken Pudding back to the wedding apartment and even made a beautiful cat bed. He bought 3 or 4 cat trees online, and Pudding was very happy at home. "Carolina, can you come back? I really know I was wrong. Don't you miss Pudding too?" I thought about it for a moment. Why would I miss it? There are so many cats in this world. If I couldn't let go every time I took care of one, how painful would my life be? Chapter 12. Justin was silent for a long time before finally asking. Then what about me, Carolina? Do you not want me either? I don't know if he realized how familiar that sounded. Back when he forced me to apologize to Lily, when he showed no concern at all for my future, I had asked him the same question, so now I answered him expressionlessly. Yes, I don't want you anymore. Justin was obsessive. He chased me all the way to Dolly and bought a small courtyard right next to mine. Every day, he would follow me from a distance, not daring to approach or disturb me. Sometimes he would search everywhere for good food and quietly leave it at the gate of my courtyard. Sometimes he would knock on my door with pudding, saying the cat was hungry and asking if I could invite him inside. Sometimes he would message me on WeChat, saying his stomach hurt, pretending to be pitiful, hoping I would go take care of him. I replied with thinly veiled mockery. Bringing medicine is something only young girls do. At my age, it's no longer appropriate. Those words landed like a slap across Justin's face. Pain showed clearly on his features. His eyes reddening, he said I'm sorry again and again. He regretted personally destroying our relationship. Perhaps this is just human nature. At the beginning, when the balance of affection tilted in my favor, he was the one who pursued me first. He was cautious, careful, afraid I might leave him. But once he realized that I, too, had fallen into the relationship and begun to depend on him, he became certain I couldn't leave. That was when the perfunctory attitude and emotional manipulation began. Only after losing everything did regret arrive, far too late. Later, his family came. They brought a group of bodyguards and forcibly took Justin away. His mother, elegant and imposing, sat across from me and wrote me a check, just like those cliched scenes in TV dramas. She told me to name my price. How much would it take for me to leave? Justin is the heir to Rongshan. He can't waste his life here with you. If you truly love him, then don't ruin him. I thought about it for a moment. 10 million. Chapter 13. Why turn down money that comes knocking on your door? Especially when, all these years, he was the one who owed me first. I took it as compensation for emotional damages, so that the years I gambled everything, staking my youth, wouldn't end in total defeat. When I left Dolly, my former landlord told me that the small courtyard had already been bought by Justin and gifted to me. He said he couldn't give me the marital home, but he would always give me a place to rely on, because he had promised. He wanted to raise a new version of Carolina again, the Carolina from childhood. He hoped I could have my own room, a place where I could laugh freely when I was happy, cry openly when I was sad, and no longer live inside a cage. I stayed silent for a long time. In the end, I entrusted the courtyard to the landlord, asking him to manage it and to welcome women who were trapped by love, careers, or health issues. As long as they needed it, the rooms would be free for them to stay. I hoped that every woman in this world could have a room of her own. With that money, I went abroad to study again, relearned finance, and through former connections entered Wall Street in the United States, where I received offers from investment banks far better than those back home. It turned out that letting life move beyond marriage and childbirth was surprisingly easy. I thought that after Justin's mother told him I had taken the money and left her son, Justin would come raging back to mock me. But he didn't. There was no news of him at all, as if he had vanished from the world. Even Lily never came to trouble me again. Everything returned to calm. The past felt like a very, very long dream, one that faded completely upon waking. Until one day, I realized that the largest investor behind all the investment projects I was handling came from a small domestic private equity firm, and the boss behind that firm was him. I sighed softly, still haunting me. After all, but we were all adults now. There was no need for everything to be black or white. Since resources tied to mutual were being handed to me, why not take them? I simply focused on doing my job well, staying true to my original intentions, and let the past drift away with the wind.